Home of the 4th Mythic Championship. Over the course of the next 3 days, 32 MPL players and more than 500 of the best Magic players from all corners of the world will battle it out for glory, their share of $500,000, and a seat at the Magic the Gathering World Championship. The 4th Mythic Championship starts now.
It certainly does, Marshall. Thank you so much. The players are gearing up for draft. It's Rich Hagan and Eduardo Sanjagale, just one small part of your global coverage team here at Mythic Championship 4 in Barcelona. Eduardo, we've got 2 great formats. What are we kicking off with?
We're kicking off with 3 rounds of Modern Horizons draft, which I found, I normally like drafting more than the actual playing, but I found with this set, there's so much synergy within all the cards that just the gameplay is pure joy. And I'm glad that we're going to be able to see all of that.
Yeah, and we're going to see a ton of fantastic gameplay. I can tell you that one of our featured players this morning is going to be the reigning world champion, Javier Dominguez. He's going to be on our Time Walk match, which means throughout the morning we'll see how his draft deck progresses. So you'll get to know the quirks and the tricks of the trade as we watch Javier Dominguez through the morning. But of course, we've also got a live draft and then a full recorded draft before all that. So plenty of Modern Horizons action. And then in the afternoons, it's going to be Modern.
Yeah, Modern's been changed. Modern Horizons, and to some degree, World of the Spark and M20 have changed the format quite a bit. I would say if you followed Modern a year ago and you woke up from a coffin or some freezing device, it is not the same format at all. 50% at least of the field really surprised me, like in terms of the metagame share. Modern Horizons has had a huge impact on the format. Of course, starting with our favorite 8-8 Trampler for no mana.
But yes, indeed. So let's take a look at the schedule and formats. This is what we're going to bring you over the next 3 days. We begin today, 3 rounds of Modern Horizons booster draft, and then it is into Modern, rounds 4 through 8. We call Swiss pairings, where you play someone on the same record as yourself. So if you go 2-1 in draft, you will likely play someone else who is 2-1 going into the constructed rounds. Now, you have to get to 4 match wins, that's 12 points total, to reach day 2. Assuming you do that, so a little more than half the field will do that. Rounds 9 through 11, it's Modern Horizons booster draft again tomorrow morning. Then we're back to Modern, the same deck as you registered for the whole tournament. Again, Swiss pairing. So the 10 and 3s play each other in round 4. The 11 and 2s, won't be many of those by that point. Again, best 2 out of 3 matches and you sideboard after game 1. And then we hit Sunday. Again, it's the same Modern deck, but this time we stretch it out to the best 3 out of 5, and the first 2 games happen before you get to sideboard. And Eduardo, in Modern, that's the kind of format where there are a lot of very powerful sideboard cards. So games are going to change a lot between, air quotes, game 1, in the case of Sunday, game 2 as well, and then post-sideboard.
And actually, one of the interesting evolutions talking to the competitors is with the open deck lists and kind of this threat of the graveyard decks, competitors have started main decking what were traditionally seen as sideboard cards. There's certainly more than one person running a main deck Leyline of the Void. And when you know, and it's open deck list, so when you know your opponent's on the graveyard deck, you can aggressively mulligan to that Leyline and have an edge, because post-board, they have answers to your Leyline. Pre-board, no. So sometimes you go against a graveyard deck, oh, here's my Leyline, and they're like, well, that's nice, let's go. But it's how you can get a big deck building advantage in Modern. If you can predict the metagame, yeah.
All right, so what are we playing for? We are playing for points and prizes. Eduardo, tell us about the prizes.
Well, the big ticket item, $50,000 US for first place. I mean, not just that, the World Championship ticket as well. That's a huge deal. After that, though, it's not so bad. You know, the prize pool is $500,000. What's really nice, you get $500 just for showing up. You qualify, you rock up. Okay, then draft didn't go so well. Your constructed round didn't go so well. Well, you still get $500. A nice big weekend in Barcelona next to the Magic Fest. It's not so bad. So I really like this kind of fact that wherever you take part, you get something.
Everybody wins.
Right, everybody wins.
All right. But of course, there can only be one winner. Now, in terms of the points, this is the last show where we have 2 parallel currencies, if you like, in terms of points. Let's show you how that works. Mythic and Pro points. Mythic is where we're heading here, and that's what we really need to focus on. 50 Mythic points to the winner. If you make the top 8, you're going to get at least 32 points. And as we head on down, your match points. So, for example, if you're 11 and 5, That's 33 match points. That's going to get you 17 Mythic points. So what are the pro points for? Well, very simply, they are just for the team series. And this is the last show where we have the team series. And so the top 2 teams will advance to the team series finals in Las Vegas. And right now, the teams in possession are Team Haruya Sword, who are on 122 points, and Team Channel Fireball, who are on 112. So 10-point gap there, and then behind them, Team Legion and Team Ultimate Guard, 6 points adrift of Team Channel Fireball. Plenty more from me on the team series as the weekend progresses. But didn't think we'd be doing this on the stream. We're going to play some bingo, Eduardo.
Bingo?
Bingo. You know bingo. So for those of you, let's put this up on screen for you. So what we've got is we've got 25 little events that we think may happen here at Mythic Championship 4. So play along as you see these happen in gameplay, or see them not happen in gameplay, follow along, and it's just possible that if we manage to complete a bingo by polishing off a line or two here as we go, there might be a prize for people paying attention at home. We'll see how that pans out. Looking at this, Eduardo, what catches your eye? Things you think might be easy, things you think might be there deep into the weekend?
I thought the free space was kind of cute.
Oh, so you're confident that a player will crack a fetch land?
I'm wondering if it'll happen in the limited rounds or not.
Huh.
Prismatic Vista is a rare, but it is a fetch land.
Fair. Okay. So player cracks a fetch land. We think we're going to get that. It's right in the center there. I'm pretty confident Who's That Pro, a match featuring 2 MPL players. There's a very good chance that's going to happen. What else?
Yeah, I would say here, Natural Turn Free Tron might be harder this event because a lot of competitors, spoiler alert a little bit there, are more on Eldrazi Tron than Tron, which traditionally has a much harder time assembling the Tron. But the hardest things here, it's kind of tough to say which one's harder. The Nick Fox Would Be Proud is kind of a nice one.
Yeah, I'm interested in that because if we get one of those decks on camera, then, there's a very good chance you'll get there. Yeah. But not necessarily sure that we'll end up that way. I am, of course, looking forward to stacks on stacks because I want spells on the stack. Layer, counterspell this, counterspell that, force negation that. Oh, and here's a lightning bolt in response to your lightning bolt. All that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That's my wheelhouse for sure. And wait, a game's decided in extra turns. That is always guaranteed for a bit of drama. So that's the bingo, and we'll be seeing plenty more of that as the weekend progresses. Play along at home, work out which line you think might be best. And if you see it, we might miss it. So stick it in chat, stick it on social media, and that's one of the initiatives at this show from our social media team, just to get us all a little bit more involved as each game goes by. So we have a feature draft table that we've picked for you. So let's take a look at the table and who we're going to see in action. So this is our feature pod. As you can see, let's start at the top there. Marcio Carvalho of the MPL, second place at Worlds, of course, 9 top finishes. You will see every pick of every pack of his draft in a little while. Guillaume Gauthier, 12-4 at Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. Jared Calabrese, this is his second Mythic Championship, went 6-9 at Mythic Championship London, but top 8 at a Grand Prix to come back immediately. Wilson Mock, top 8 of Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. Sam Marty is a Grand Prix champion from Switzerland. He won in this country, Grand Prix Valencia 2013. The player we're going to watch live in just a moment is Paul Rietzl, Hall of Famer. He's from Team Ultimate Guard. They're in 3rd place in the team series, looking to catch 6 points up to Team Channel Fireball to get them a slot in the team series final. Andrew Zigas has 2 Grand Prix top 8s from just 14 starts. And then the last player at our feature table, Petr Danek from the Czech Republic, debut at the Mythic Championship. And amongst all the star names and people getting ready to try and climb the hill again, it's about the people making their debuts, Eduardo. Just so exciting. He's sitting next to one of the great drafters of all time, in Marcio Carvalho.
Yeah, just the hot seat in the house, so to speak. But yeah, for me, that first event, I saw a lot of messages from competitors going like, I couldn't sleep. And now I can. Like, I've been to enough that, I have a good night's sleep. But I remember my first event, and yeah, the night before you get so much adrenaline and excitement, it's hard to, like, find the right balance. And I find that atmosphere just reminds you like how much these players, no matter from where, have had to, what they've had to do to get here. It's a big accomplishment and achievement just to get here. And you start with a feature draft. Why not? Let's make the best of it.
All right, let's make the best of it. It is time for the first draft of Mythic Championship 4. Let's head on down to the booth where we are in the company of Paul Cheon and Marshall Sutcliffe.
And welcome back to the booth here in Barcelona. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon. And of course, this is what it all comes down to, right? The players have qualified. They've taken that long road to get here. And now they're seated and ready for the first booster draft here. And Paul, we've got really one of the most in-depth and exciting formats we've had in a long time with Modern Horizons as we move down to the feature match area. This is an extremely skill-testing format, and the players have a mighty hurdle ahead of them just in the booster draft, let alone the games they're going to play. And as you can see, our main feature match player here, he's feeling it. That's Marcio Carvalho, somebody who is considered one of the best limited players in the world. And you can tell that even for him, you know, he's like, let's get this thing going.
Yeah, I mean, flat out, I think Marcio is just one of the best players, period, in the world. But he is definitely kind of a master of the draft format. And right now, he's probably just thinking about the cards that he wants to open in the format, because there are a few cards that can, you know, single-handedly win games by themselves.
You see Paul Rietzl, that was Wilson Mock a minute ago as well, filling out our feature match pod. And we're going to be also getting a chance to watch Paul and his draft too. So we've got, you know, kind of a 1-2 punch here of Marcio Carvalho and Paul Rietzl in our feature pod. It really is an exciting one to kick things off. Now, what card, if you're sitting there and you're Marcio, are you like, come on, just open up a fill in the blank for me here, Paul?
Yeah, so there's a handful of cards. I'm going to go with Yawgmoth, Thran Physician. I think that's just not only is it
the good doctor?
Yeah, the good doctor. I mean, not only is it one of the most powerful cards in the set, but it's just the most fun card, I think, to play with. You know, you have so many different options. You know, you can go with a couple of other options. What card do you want to open, Marshall?
Well, I just think it's funny because I agree with you 100%. One of the most fun cards to play with, but that is precisely because it is so not fun to play against. It is so difficult.
Right.
I'm kind of a Hex Drinker guy.
Oh, you know what? That's a totally reasonable
simple,
one.
You know?
Yeah.
Like it's cheaper, right?
Splashable.
The level up's colorless. You just get it down and go.
Yeah. Definitely had an opponent just concede to a turn 1 Hex Drinker in one of my most recent drafts. So, yeah, very, very powerful card.
It looks like we're actually going to switch up. We're going to start with Paul Rietzl.
Okay.
And let's get underway. It looks like he's opened up his pack. Paul definitely looks like a Hex Drinker kind of guy to me. Let's see what he's opened up here to kick things off.
Is he a snow-covered forest first pick kind of guy?
Well, he's looking at it. That is the ideal snow-covered lands. Of course, the islands and forests are the most desirable of the bunch.
Oh, but a pretty weak pack. He opens a Mox, which is not exactly the type of card you want to open in Limited here. But, you know, there are, you know, very, very powerful removal spells, even at Common. And so, you know, just the overall power level for Modern Horizons is going to be higher than what you see in a typical draft.
This pack is awful.
Oh, my goodness.
That pack was terrible. And Paul Rietzl sending the strongest signal you can send. He first picked a snowland.
Right, because keep in mind, there is a snow-covered land in every single booster. So if you get past the pack and there is no snow-covered land, you know immediately that the person is deciding that he wants to do the snow thing. And if that's the case, you want to avoid it if possible.
Can you imagine being the person that Paul's passing to and being like, are you serious? The snowland is missing. It looks like a firebolt has been passed to Paul. What else does he have here?
I see a Jin in there as well. But I mean, Firebolt is just so efficient, so powerful. I think you're just going to go with it. You know, in specific matchups, it's just completely backbreaking. If you play against, for example, the red-white slivers deck, you know, everything has 2 toughness in that deck.
Dirty.
So it's just so efficient. I mean, and it's a great splash card too, because you know you can just use it multiple times. There's just a lot of targets in this format that this hits.
Yeah, there was a Ruination Rider also in the pack in gold that he could consider perhaps wheeling if nobody else is interested in the red-green lands in my Graveyard Matters deck. Ooh, Thundering Jin, though.
That's the second Jin.
Yeah, he's gotten past 2 of those now. And that has to be a big signal here for Paul. And while that snow-covered forest won't really have a home necessarily, if he can move into the blue-red draw extra cards deck, this
Right.
could work out very well for him.
Yeah, the rest of the pack looks quite weak. I mean, Mother Bear, it looks like he has as the second best card in the pack. So it looks like he's going to take the Jin. You know, personally, I haven't had the most success drafting just a straight blue-red deck, but it's the type of card that you can also just easily splash. You know, if you're a green-based deck, for example, you can pretty much draft very easily a 4 or 5 color deck.
Look, and if the blue-red deck is open, it is a real thing. You know, you
Absolutely.
pick up a few choking tethers and stuff like that, and you can get cards out of the way and hit for huge, like the type of games where you're like, I'm fine, I'm at 18, it's okay, and then you're like, I'm dead?
Right. It is one of the scariest decks to play against because you can
Absolutely.
go from 15 to 0 in just one turn.
That's right. There's a Bogarden Dragonheart. It looks like he may be shifting back over to the snow-covered island. He passed one last pack.
Yeah, there's an Irregular Cohorts, which is quite a powerful card. If you want to move into white, I think the general consensus is that white is the weakest color in the format, so you want to avoid it unless it's absolutely open. And it looks like, you know, I mean, this is a huge signal, right? First picking a snow-covered forest, followed by a 4th or 5th pick snow-covered island. I mean, it looks like Paul really heavily committing to giving himself the option of being some kind of a snow control deck.
Yeah, four color, even 5 color snow is a very popular archetype in the format. It rewards you not just on the axis of the snow covered and then cards that care about them, but also just in the fact that you have access to much of the best removal at common by simply splashing, you know, one mountain or one swamp.
Oh, wow. Okay,
He's
so
going to take the giant here?
yeah, so this was actually kind of a surprising pick. We saw some islands. We saw a snow-covered island being taken, and then there were a couple of other options there. But it looks like he went for the giant. I mean, 4 mana 5/5 is a pretty strong rate, but that could also mean that he's looking to potentially pivot here. He can be blue-red, right? He could also maybe just be red-green splash blue. The red-green lands and graveyard deck is also a very powerful archetype.
That's right. Yeah, Ravenous Giant, great return on your investment of mana, and generally speaking, quite a strong uncommon. Now it looks like he took a talisman there?
That's what it looks like. I think generally speaking, yeah, Ravenous Giant, when you look at it, you're like, oh my goodness, 4 mana 5/5. I will say, however, that in this specific format, because you have such powerful removal spells at common, it is not as good as you would expect it to be. That's not to say it's not a powerful card, but just because the power level of the removal spells in Modern Horizons is a bit higher than the traditional draft set, you know, a card like that, typically your opponents will have a few more answers for it.
Yeah, it was the Talisman of Curiosity that he picked. That's the one that can make blue or green. So again, we do see him kind of hovering around the Teamer color trio right now, but it is unclear currently what colors he may end up being.
Yeah, I was actually a little bit surprised. I thought he was going to maybe consider taking the Frostwalla out of the pack with the Giant to kind of keep your options a little more open, especially when you're taking all those snow lands. You know, Frostwalla is a very nice payoff card. It's just really, really difficult to attack into.
Well, he's going to go back on the Snow Train with a Chiller Pillar here. It looks like he was considering Winding Way, but has decided just to take the fine 4-drop, right?
Right.
It's a might be called Filler Pillar in some
The Filler Pillar in some
circles.
sounds like you call it that.
No comment. Here's the
Right.
pack that he opened. The Mox Tantalum has wheeled, but that's not a surprise.
Yeah. We'll say it doesn't look like green has been especially open. We haven't seen
No.
a ton of the green cards
No,
here.
the only green card he has is a Forest, and that's not even a green
Right,
card,
exactly.
so-
Right. But of course, Chiller Pillar, not the type of card that you want to put into your deck unless you have enough ways to activate the monstrosity.
That's right, and you do need 2 different sources of snow for that. So he's going to take an Excavating Anurid here, a little dip into green. It's not, the dream's not dead yet of that happening, but he also doesn't really have a focused blue-red deck at this
Right.
point, so maybe he wants to keep his options open. Wow, now he gets a snow-covered island quite late here,
Yeah.
but he's not going to take it. He's going to take Nantuko Cultivator instead.
So that's pretty relevant here. I think the thinking is, you know, if you're going to be blue-red, snow's generally not going to be very relevant, right? You know, there's a handful of cards, maybe something like a Winter's Rest would be good, but it looks like he's preferring to still just keep his options open, see, you know, which combination of the Teamer colors that he wants to go into. You're not seeing a lot of the spells or draw an additional card matters theme cards kind of tabling here as you see it. You know, blue-red, that's typically what you want to be doing. And you want to be tabling those Minotaurs. You want to be tabling those payoff cards for free. And if you don't see them, then blue-red's really not where you want to be.
That's right. And so far, that has, in fact, not been the case. He did pick up an Amorphous Axe, but before that, he got something else too. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, so this is kind of a tricky start. I mean, you know, the mana curve right now doesn't look especially great right now. We're seeing lots of 4s and 5s, but of course we have Firebolt, which kind of helps shore that up. It looks like the only color that looks reasonably open was red. You know, we saw the Ravenous Giant, there's a Firebolt, and then he's got a, you know, fairly late Bladeback Sliver. So he might be looking to pivot here and move into potentially red-green lands in graveyard. As you can see, that's why he took the Nantuko Cultivator late, along with that Excavating Anurid.
Yeah, one thing to note is we did mention the Ruinous Rider in that first pack. It did not come back.
Right.
So somebody else is interested in that deck potentially.
Yeah, no Igneous Elementals.
Right, which is a key.
Absolutely.
Paul sent me a screenshot of a deck with like 5 Igneous Elemental. He's like, how is this? I'm like, what the? Then he played Slivers twice and thought, well, this card's pretty good, I guess.
was like, hey, guys, it turns out a 4-mana 4/3 that kills a creature when it comes into play is pretty good.
Yeah. He did pick up a Tribute Mage in there as well, and he does have the one Talisman that he can search up with it. So there's some little things going on here.
Yeah, I think, you know, at this point in the draft, Paul still has the ability to kind of move around between these colors, but it's a little bit tricky. It's a little tough here, and you can even tell just a little bit by looking at Paul. It's like, all right, he really needs to open something here to kind of give him a sense of direction here. Where does he want to go? Because you can't just be waffling the entire draft.
That's right. Yeah, and you can get away with it in this format through the first pack of kind of not knowing exactly where you need to be.
Right.
But yeah, he's going to need to really find a path quickly here. All right, let's take a look at pack number 2. Ooh, Manowar. Hello, my old friend. What was his rare, though?
I think it
wasn't the Shinobi, was it?
It was the Shinobi.
Oh,
wow.
my goodness sakes. One of the better rares you can get, though it is a stretch for Paul, and you can see, well, he's like, can I make this thing work? Because Manowar, rock solid card, but Fallen Shinobi is incredibly powerful, and you can splash for it.
Yeah, you can. However, you know, it's one of those things where Paul's already waffling between 3 colors, and Manowar is generally considered to be, you know, the best common in the set, or if not top 3. And so it's one of those things where it's like, look, I'm just going to take the Manowar, and look, even if I'm red-green, if I get some mana fixing, Manowar is powerful enough that you're even happy splashing it.
Keep talking. Keep it coming.
Oh, saying more good things about Manowar.
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah, I mean, whichever direction Paul goes at this point, even if he ends up red-green, I imagine he's probably going to be looking to splash both the Thundering Djinn and the Manowar.
Blizzard Strix sitting at the back of the pack there. Very powerful option, though I do see in his color trio here, he has multiple options. This is actually a pretty stacked pack, though. It does look like he's pulled Exclude to the front. I think I see Reap the Past there. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, there's a Blizzard Strix as well, but Paul isn't as heavily committed to being Snow at this point, so you know he might not be able to trigger that as much. Very nice combination with Manowar, being able to flicker your own Manowar, but it looks like he's going to go for the Exclude here.
Wow.
All right.
Paul going for the Exclude. This is very non-Rietzl-like behavior. I'm surprised to see it. I really have that Strix very high.
Right.
And Exclude, okay.
Yeah.
You'll play one, I guess. Maybe he values it very highly, though.
Sure. Likes to draw those cards, and maybe he just doesn't want to heavily commit to Snow, because he didn't see a ton of green Snow payoff cards in pack 1.
Here's another Ravenous Giant, and you can see Paul's interested. There's also a Bogarden Dragonheart that he's got pulled to the front, as well as a Moonblade Shinobi.
There's also Winter's Rest, but...
He's just enough maybe to consider that? Yeah, it feels like he's veering away, though, and really just pushing into red here.
Right. If he wants to do that, then he probably wants to take the Giant here, because the Dragonheart, it's the type of card that you want in kind of the red-black sacrifice deck, but in red-green it's not quite as good, because all your creatures are just generally pretty strong on rate, so you don't want to be sacrificing anything.
You can take a look, by the way, on the left-hand side of your screen, the picks that he's made already here for this pack, and then down at the bottom, you can see what his mana curve looks like as it gets filled out, as well as how many cards of each color that he has, and you can see he's, leaned towards blue-red currently, as we've been mentioning.
Yeah, it looks like, blue-red. We do see a Crozen Tusker there at the back, which is a nice way to kind of fix your mana. But it looks like, now Paul is committing.
Whoa! He took that over the Dragonheart.
Right. He is now committing to being blue-red here, and just trying to lock that in and just trying to avoid green if at all possible.
Phantasmal Form from Paul Rietzl. He's going to get people dead out of nowhere.
Wow,
and
that is
look
late.
at this. Watcher for Tomorrow sitting in this pack.
Yeah, and I imagine, I mean, he's likely going to take that Watcher here. That Minotaur is a fine card, but I think Paul at this point in the curve just really wants to take this card. And it's just a fantastic value
And take
creature.
a look, Paul, down in the lower left again. You can see how many 2-drops he has. He only has the 1.
Right.
So, you know, filling him out, like, that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Oof. Watcher for Tomorrow is a nice pickup.
Yeah, and this definitely makes a lot of sense. It's nice that you see Paul being rewarded here in Pack 2. And keep in mind, we didn't see a lot of good green in Pack 1 as well, meaning that in Pack 3, it's likely that he's not going to see green there, and he's going to see more of those blue and red cards that he saw in Pack 1.
Again, you know, really looking to fill out his 2-drop slots here. And wow, actually, sorry, I misread it. Yeah, he actually has a lot of 2-drops. He picks up an Orcish Hellraiser.
Sure.
And there was no hesitation from him there as well. He just snapped that off.
Yeah. Generally, the type of card that you want in kind of a more aggressive shell, right? The echo cost is a pretty heavy cost, especially if you're a slower control deck. You know, you see that exclude, very awkward to have in your hand if you do play out that turn 2 Orcish Hellraiser. But mana curve is extremely important, of course. And yeah, he just wants it. He just wants to make sure that he can curve out smoothly.
Well, he loves a Phantasmal form. He's certainly proven that to us, and he has a chance to get another one. I'm sure that you know, they diminish a little bit with when multiples, but still, the second one, okay. He's going to take it.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like he currently has any of the payoff cards, you know, anything that rewards you for drawing an additional card just yet. He just currently has that Phantasmal form as a decent way to just try to close out the game.
Looks like he's found another Hellraiser here, Paul. So, you know, it's interesting because...
Got a plan.
Yeah, with these Hellraisers, the more 2-drops you have, the better off you are, because you can play it, pay its cost, and then pay a 2-drop on turn 3, and he's got that.
Right.
So. Looks like not a lot for him. There's a Spell Snuff at the front. The Sandstalker usually doesn't end up making the cut, but maybe it does in this deck.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get in for 4, or, you know, it does have cycling as well, which is relevant for this deck.
I tend to like it a little more if I have a few Goblin Champions in my deck, just to have that Exalted trigger, so every now and then it survives a combat step.
Yeah. But, you know, if Paul does want a cheap thing to cycle, that does fit the bill.
Yeah, for sure. And the cycling is even more relevant, of course, in the blue-red deck.
Of course. Another Chiller Pillar, though.
That's a late Frostwalla, so
it was
not sure how many people are in the snow deck, but you know that's something you're going to be extremely happy seeing 8th or 9th pick.
Here's a snow-covered island as we wind down pack number 2 here for Paul Rietzl.
You can see there on the left-hand side, pack 2 going reasonably well. I mean, we had, of course, Manowar, fantastic start, followed by the Exclude and the Ravenous Giant. And then that 5th pick Watcher for Tomorrow was huge. And, you know, he was also able to just kind of round out his mana curve here, too.
And Paul, all-knowing Paul, just wheeled the Bogarden Dragonheart, of course.
Yeah.
And now we've got nothing.
Definitely better because now there's a little more reach too, right? We picked up those late Orcish Hellraisers, so being able to get your opponent for 2 by sacking the Hellraiser, and then also just, you know, the fact that you can just kill your opponents out of nowhere, a 4/4 haster from your 3-drop.
I mean, that combo that you just mentioned is 6 damage just straight away.
Exactly.
Like, it's just like, take 6. Okay, well, oftentimes that's more than is enough to get the job done. There's a last card there from the second pack, and, you know, we mentioned a bit. Look at this pack from Paul. Just take a quick look at it. Blue card, red card, blue. I mean, it's just down the line, the exact type of thing that you want to see. And you mentioned he needed to find direction. He found it.
Yeah, absolutely. He is now locked into the blue-red deck, and it looks, you know, it looks reasonable in the sense that it's got a nice mana curve, not as many synergies as you would expect, but it's just looking to, you know, curve out nicely. You have some interaction here. You have the Manowar, you have some burn spells, and then, you know, just top off with Ravenous Giant and maybe even that Dragonheart. Oh, excuse me, and also the Phantasmal forms. I want to see some ground pounders get
you know,
some wings.
Thus far, he doesn't really have a lot to do with those.
Right.
Right. I mean, you know, you can get in for damage and it's a cantrip, so it's fine. But what you really want to do is use that cantrip to charge up some of your blue and red cards that care about drawing extra cards. And he doesn't really have a whole lot of that going on.
Yeah. I mean, I see a Goblin War Party in there, so I suppose he can just, you know, make a couple of 1/1s into 3/3 flyers.
There's another way to get 6 damage in out of nowhere. We're kind of piling those up here, you know.
those two Ravenous Giants looking really nice. The 4-mana slot here for Paul.
Yeah, his 4-mana looks really nice. He does still have that Jin, which is, you know, his ideal 5-mana play.
Definitely.
No, this came around for him, and clearly it looks like his patience paid off because by the time the second pack rolled around, it was very clear what colors he should be in, and he's in those. So well done to Paul for that. Especially given if we rewind here, pack one, pick one. Was a snow-covered forest. It's not exactly written in stone that he was going to be in this deck, right?
Yeah, I think that gives us a good sense of what archetype he values a lot. But, you know, this is Paul also just realizing that, look, green didn't seem especially open. I don't really want to be in snow. I don't want to be fighting over those cards. So I'm going to just take a bunch of blue and red cards and see what happens. And it looks like Paul's deck is shaping up pretty nicely here.
All right, pack 3, pick 1 is underway. Let's see what he can get for this deck. Pondering Mage, a Gambit. Goblin Engineer's not
Nope.
what he wants at the rare slot, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is a fairly disappointing pack, I would say. You know, you can take a Shinobi here. There's also a Pondering Mage, but, you know, I don't think he has any goblins to search out with the Matron.
Was there at least a Minotaur that he might wheel at the back of the pack, I think?
No.
You
and
didn't see
also
one?
keep in mind, we saw a Minotaur in pack 2 that did not table.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I
there
thought
might
I
be
saw
somebody
one,
else.
but-
There might be somebody else in blue-red in this draft.
Looks like he may be prioritizing yet another 2-drop. I kind of like the Shinobi here with his current curve. He's got 7 2-drops, but this is Paul Rietzl we're talking about here.
He also doesn't have a ton of evasive creatures, so maybe he just thinks he doesn't think that he's going to be able to get the ninjutsu off as often as he'd like. No eye kites in his deck or anything like that. Wow. Okay.
Hello, friend.
That's exciting. I kind of like to call Manowar the mythic common of the set.
Is that a bizarre trade mage, though?
Ooh, I didn't see that as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
that
was
is
the last
interesting.
card in the pack. Come on, Paul, take the Manowar. You know what you need to do. I don't know. The trade mage might actually be correct here.
Especially just the way that his deck is set up. He just
Yeah.
wants to beat down. It's a huge evasive flyer. I mean, it puts you down
a card.
a card.
Yeah.
And the removal in this format is quite strong.
Yeah.
So it feels pretty bad.
I find it to be medium. You know,
Right.
like, and I don't mean bad medium. I just
Right.
mean it's fine. You can put it in your deck. I think it's a legit argument with Manowar. And biases aside, I would actually just
But
take Manowar here.
I think Manowar is just the better
Never
card.
bad.
Right.
It's just every time you play it, it's doing what you want to do, where the trade mage is really hit or miss.
Right, for sure.
Like, you can lose a game that you play trade mage and they kill it. Like,
Yeah.
that, you know, for that reason. Where with Manowar, it's just no risk.
Definitely. And you know what? Given that Paul had the pair of Orcish Hellraisers, it does make sense to try to overload on 2s so that you can still curve out nicely and go 2-drop, pay the Echo, and then play another 2-drop.
Looks like he's considering picking up the 4-mana Cleaving Sliver. He does have a few other slivers in this deck.
He's got 2 Bladebacks.
And with his, you know, one card that he doesn't have any of is Choking Tethers.
Yeah.
You know, it's a card you usually see that can come around late, but goes beautifully in this deck because either mode, if
Right.
you will, is very powerful.
Yeah. Although his deck specifically isn't really focusing on that draw extra
No.
card synergy.
No. But the get everything out of the way and kill you synergy is still very relevant.
This is, you know, that Manowar was nice. The pack with the Manowar was nice, but then it looks like the pack's kind of drying up here. He's not seeing a whole lot of cards or good options for his deck.
Yeah, this is basically a punted pick here. I don't think that either of these cards is going to make the cut. He's got an option on a second Sandstalker or a third Phantasmal Form, and that's probably not going to happen.
I can't imagine you're going to be playing 3 copies of this card.
Right. He valued the first one quite highly, but
Right.
The third one has dropped off pretty significantly.
It can kind of act as a pseudo choking tethers in the sense that you can kind of use it as a reach spell to help close out games.
Ooh, a Lonely Sandbar looks very appealing here. Everdream, fine, but probably not where he wants to be. He may want to consider the Goblin War Party, but these picks that you can get where you get to play a land that doesn't take a slot in your deck is very powerful.
Yeah, that pack, though, had a Rime Tender and a Conifer Worm. So now it's one of those things where you're like, man, if I had stayed Snow, would that have been a stronger deck? Because like we saw in pack 2, too, there were some late Frostwallers going around. So, curious to see who actually ends up in that Snow deck. And now you see a Tranquil Thicket, too. So you see the Sandbar and the Tranquil Thicket. I mean, it's possible that multiple people decided to switch off of the Snow deck kind of, during the course of pack 1.
I mean, that's Paul's. He did that.
Right.
He first picked a Snowland. People are like, whoa, I'm out.
Yeah.
He's looking at Goblin Matron or Smoke Shroud, neither of which seem particularly good in his deck. You saw him pause on the Matron thinking about what it is that he may be able to search up.
Don't think so.
I couldn't think of anything.
The Changelings are not really in the blue-red deck, so you know you can't even fetch for non-goblins either. So
right.
Oh, what?
Fa Factor Fiction? Hello. Okay.
All right, well, this is a
Goblin
pretty easy
Oriflame
Factor
would be
Fiction.
fine too, but yeah, you're not faffing.
Wow, that is a late Factor Fiction.
I love seeing Factor Fiction there if I'm Paul Rietzl. The perfect reload card for his deck. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It's not perfect. It doesn't actually draw you the cards. And it looks like kind of a bunch of nothing here. Oh, sorry, there's a Lava Dart up front.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. Yeah, that might make the main. Definitely will be a good sideboard option for Paul at the minimum. So.
Yeah, but Paul is fairly light on removal. You know, he has a pair of Mana Wars and then the Firebolt, but he doesn't have a ton. So, yeah, I can definitely see this Lava Dart making its way into the deck.
Second Tribute Mage, though, again, he's already got one. And by the way, yeah, the snow-covered stuff is just...
Right.
Now you got me looking at that.
Yeah,
There's an Astrolabe
you see the
and a
snow-covered
snow-covered island.
island?
I'm like, dude. Oh, man.
Yeah, but, you know...
That's a draft for
Shoulda,
another
woulda,
day.
coulda, right,
yeah,
for sure.
Exactly.
I think given Paul's seed, it did make sense for him to kind of look to switch off of the you know, you really just did. I mean, Mother Bear was like the only green card I considered in pack one. So
it really did feel like him sticking to the snow guns too hard would have been a mistake, even if it would have paid off in the end, perhaps. But Paul did find definitely a nice lane here for his seat. Not perfect. He's missing some of the big payoff style cards. He has no Ike-Kites, no Minotaurs, but the color pair was open. I mean, this is the second pack in a row where effectively every card he's taken has been in his color pair. And when you're somebody like Paul Rietzl, you can make that work.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, nothing super exciting in the sense that, you know, Paul, you know, opened a couple of rares that really didn't do anything for him. And, you know, it looks like had he stuck to his guns, he might have ended up with a more synergistic deck with all the snow cards. But, you know, decent mana curve, actually very good mana curve with some interaction and a couple of Mana Wars. Those Mana Wars can, you draw those Mana Wars, you can win any game.
Yeah, that's what I always say. But especially in the hands of somebody like Rietzl, you know, he can play whatever he needs to play efficiently, but his mentality, his baseline mentality is definitely on the board combat based.
Yes.
And he is extremely good at finding the lines that are very narrow, right? You know, some of the more obvious lines anybody of his caliber are going to see, but he really does have the ability to go deep into the tank and understand his lines of play. And a deck like this really does reward you for that, because it does have certain sequences that are very difficult to interact with and pile on huge amounts of damage, but require you to do things like keep your board state intact, even if it means taking a lot of extra damage for a turn, in the hopes of drawing a card that can power through a lot of damage.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of situations where Paul might be looking like he's behind, but just kind of playing in a way to put himself in situations to win. And that's what the best players do. And there's a lot of that, especially when you play a deck as tricky as kind of this blue-red deck. You know, you have cards like the Mana War. It's like, hey, I'm going to draw a Mana War to clear out your blocker, to attack with my Giant. Or I'm going to put myself in a situation so that I can top deck Phantasmal Form and be able to kill you. You're going to see a lot of that coming from Paul.
That's right, and that is exactly the type of thing that rewards a player of Paul Rietzl's skill level. So that was our first draft. Now, we also had Marcio Carvalho in the feature match area drafting, and we're going to get a chance to watch him as well and see every pick of his draft. I wonder if he's the one who ended up on snow?
It's possible.
Maybe?
I don't know.
All right, well, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, though, we'll have that draft for you at the desk. We'll see in just a bit.